Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Mysticall. Today I'm bringing you a video answering a question I get asked quite often on stream, and that is, what covenant am I choosing in 9.1? Now, long story short, I have not chosen one yet because they have yet to announce the Monk Covenant legendaries. For those who don't know, in 9.1 they are adding covenant specific legendaries for classes, which means it's going to be a different legendary depending on which covenant you go with. So even though some of these Soulbinds might be mediocre, it could sway my decision depending on the legendary, but I'll just tell you how I feel about certain Soulbinds and where I'm leaning towards throughout this video. And with that said, let's jump right into it. Something I do want to mention before we get into the video is that this is from my PvP point of view, but if you want a video on Mythic Plus or rating and kind of like my thoughts, please let me know and please comment that, and I will gladly put a video of it out. So with that said, let's start with Kyrian, which is one of the ones I'm actually leaning towards because of the changes to Mechanicos. Now, if you don't know the changes for what's happening in 9.1, pretty much this is where the Soulbind ends, this is where the Soulbind ends right here, and they're adding 4 additional rows of Soulbind conduits and Soulbind options. So we end here right now, renown 31, and then by renown 57, will be unlocked. So we have 4 new layers, which is really sick. And for Kyrian, Mechanicos is absolutely the go-to. You already have the Forge Sight filter, which makes your vial automatically proc when you drop below 35% health, and then you also have the AoE stun when you drop below 30% health. So both of those defensively are amazing. And in addition to that, we're getting reactive retrofitting, which gives you a 8% shield based off of your health when you take physical or magic damage, and this has a 30-second internal cooldown. But this is seriously amazing. So for example, if you're running into TSG, Arms Warrior Frost Death Knight, you take physical damage from the Arms Warrior, magic damage from the Frost Death Knight, that's a free 16% shield every 30 seconds if they're hitting you. Even if they're not, there's something that hits you, let's just say their healer, is a holy pally, throws something at you, melees you, you just get a 16% shield, which is amazing. So a great defensive Soulbind options, but then on top of that, you get the effusive anima accelerator, which means what this does is, let me switch that to Monk. Weapons of Order will just release damage, and if it hits, for anyone it hits, it reduces the cooldown of Weapons of Order by 8 seconds, up to 40 seconds. So if there's 5 people around you, there's pets, there's enemies around you, let's just say you're doing RBGs and you're at a node and you're team fighting and you use Weapons of Order, it hits 5 people, reduces the cooldown of by 40 seconds. This Weapons of Order already increases your mastery by so much, and the healing from it is already amazing. Reducing the cooldown of that by 40 seconds is just makes it even better. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards Kyrian next patch for 9.1, because you have 1, 2, 3 defensive Soulbind traits, and then on top of that you get increased healing. So it's really good defensively, and you have a lot of healing output. On top of that, you also get another finesse conduit, so that's really sick. I would probably go with Swift Transference, because that's honestly my favorite one out of all the finesse conduits. And yeah, overall, Kyrian looking really solid, looking really good, and it's one of my favorites going into 9.1. Next up, we have Venthyr, and Najee is really the only option. The only other option would be Draven, and he's got some pretty good ones going to 9.1. These are okay dealing with overhealing, and then when you drop below 50% health, you can Dwarf Shadows, which is actually, this will be really good in 2s, by the way, really good in 2s with all the Windwalkers and Warriors. But I would say going into 9.1, Najee is probably going to be the best. She gives you haste, she gives you a fear, basically an AoE fear, which is great. And then the biggest problem that Mistweavers are going to run into, one of the biggest problems, is interrupts, because we have, we can port while stunned, so interrupts are probably our next biggest weakness. And Familiar Predicaments, even though it was nerfed, it still reduces interrupts, snares, and roots on you by 20%, which is really solid. That's really good. But going into it, this final one is the best one, but Nimble Steps gives you an AoE slow. Every enemy around you is slowed by 10%, and then if you drop below 35% health, it roots everybody around you for 4 seconds, which is really nice when you're trying to get away. Let's just say you root somebody, or you drop below 35% health, or you root everybody and then you roll away like behind a pillar. They're just stuck in a root. Warriors, DKs, any melee pets, like, it's really nice. This other one, unless you're playing with a Warlock, it doesn't even do anything. Health potions and health stones grant you absorb shield of 50% of the amount healed. You can't use health potions in arena, so that's out of the question. And health stones, you know, only if you're playing with the warlock, pretty much. So you could be going with the AoE slow, which I kind of like, and then fatal flaw, which is just like when the haste effect of Euphoria ends, you gain 10 seconds of 20% increased crit or verse, whichever you have more of. So Euphoria is the effect you get here, which gives you haste for 10. So you go from 20% haste for 10 seconds into versatility, because in PvP you're gonna have more versatility than crit, like no doubt about it. So this 20% versatility is crazy. So this is why I'm kind of leaning towards Venthyr. That, and I really like Fallen Order, and I really like Dwarf Shadows. Those are honestly my favorite Covenant abilities. So yeah, the increased verse, the AoE slow is and then the reduced interrupt duration on you. Venthyr, even though it's not getting much more healing output, is still rock solid when it comes to just being aggressive, but also having ways to kind of deal with interrupts on you. This is going to be really good for casters. If it's a caster meta, this is going to be really, really good. The versatility is going to be insane, and then so is the fear that you get. So that's why I'm leaning towards Venthyr. Next up, we have Necrolord, and the changes are very underwhelming. The reason why you're Necrolord, these Soulbinds are just not the greatest. I looked over them; they're just they're not good. So the reason why you Necrolord, one, Fleshcraft is actually really nice. You can shield before, you know, the gates open, so RMPs kind of have a difficult time, you know, opening on you in the opener. And then you also get the Ooze's Frictionless Coating, which when you drop below 50% health, you gain a 15% shield, which is really, really helpful. It's helped me live really good versus melee teams that kind of train me down. And then Ultimate Form to avoid CC is amazing when you can time it right. Now, the additional Soulbinds that you get are just, they're just not the greatest. So while you're above 80% health, 5% of damage taken is delayed and spread over 5 seconds. That's only 5% of the damage taken. And then Vicious Trail, when struck by a snare, you drop a puddle that lasts for 10 seconds. And then if they stand in it, they're actually slowed by 70% for 5 seconds, but it has an internal cooldown of a minute, which could be pretty solid. Actually, it could be pretty solid. And then you probably go with the Endurance Conduit. And then the final one is Kevin's Oozling. Bone Dust Brew, it summons like a little oozling for 20 seconds, and then it deals damage and then gives some of your allies small shields. And it's not a huge shield, you know. It's not going to be worth like using Bone Dust Brew before CC and it'll keep them alive. It's just not going to happen. So overall, that's kind of why I'm leaning away from Necrolord. I already don't really like Necrolord. It's just the best Covenant right now to keep me alive and, you know, help me out when teams are training me. So with 9.1 and being able to port while stunned, with Dematerialize also as a PvP talent, it's just not looking that good for Necrolord. It's still going to be good defensively, and this might still be good for staying alive. But personally, I'm probably not going to go Necrolord. I'm leaning more towards Kyrian and Venthyr. Finally, we have Night Fae, probably the biggest meme for Mistweaver this entire expansion. Soul Shape is actually good. It's Phalian Stomp that just, for 2,000 mana, I believe it costs, it's actually just bad. It's just terrible. There's two Soulbinds I kind of swap between, because I am Night Fae on my ult, but I pretty much go Naya on my ult, and it's okay. You get a 5%, you know, heal when you're in Soul Shape, and then these are just like not ideal. But for the extra potency, I would go here. The Poison, which does decent damage, but not a whole lot, and then these final four, you get another potency, which is really nice. And then when you drop below 50% health, you gain a 20% of your health over 10 seconds, and then receive additional healing from other spells and abilities. So if you're playing with any you know, balanced druids, feral druids, any shaman, you know, enhanced resto or enhanced shaman, Ellie shaman, any hybrids that can heal you, their healing spells do 5% more healing, which was nice for keeping you alive. And then for Called Shot, which is the other one, when you get a critical strike, you gain 20% movement speed, but it only, you know, can happen once every 10 seconds. Might be decent, but, you know, it's for PvP, it's like not the greatest, because you're kind of just hanging back. And then the final one is when you get this buff, if any of your allies or if any of your teammates are a different Covenant, it just increases the amount of health they gain and healing effects on them. So basically, you would heal for 3% more, and they would increase their health by a little bit. So overall, Night Fae, not exactly the greatest, but it's not kind of expected. This one, honestly, Dreamweaver isn't much better. She does give you more healing, a shield from overhealing, or versatility, which is nice. And then these are like soul shape slows people, and then when you take damage below 80% health, you get a shield for 30% of the amount damage done to you, which is pretty solid. But this final one, dealing damage or healing a target, grants you 1% increased damage or healing that target up to 3%. Might be good versus casters, but it's just, there's a cooldown on it. It's not exactly the greatest. So I think Night Fae is still going to be the worst. I really think the problem comes down to Failing Stomp and how little it actually does. I wish there was an option to, like a ranged option. It might be good in Mythic Plus though, but in PvP it's just not. The mana cost for it is just actually just terrible. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm probably not going to go Night Fae. I'll probably stay Night Fae on my ult just because Night Fae is actually kind of fun. But overall, I would probably gonna stay away from Night Fae on my main. Pretty much what I'm looking at in 9.1 is either Kyrian or Venthyr. I don't know which. I think what it comes down to is the legendary. If, you know, Kyrian has a mediocre legendary, but the Soulbinds are so good, I might go Kyrian. Same thing with Venthyr. The problem is Necrolord. If Necrolord gets some kind of legendary where it increases the healing of Fleshcraft or something like that, I think I might have to just stick with Necrolord depending on how the meta turns out. But I am leaning towards Kyrian or Venthyr just based on Soulbinds, and I don't know when they're releasing the new legendaries for Monk yet, but hopefully they're solid, you know, hopefully they're good. But overall, yeah, Kyrian Venthyr is what I'm going towards. I want to get away from Necrolord. It's really just boring to me. I think Fleshcraft and the shield are great, but just not. I want to push in, you know. I want to play Venthyr on Door Shadows, Leg Sweep in. And I really like Fallen Order. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If anyone has any Soulbinds that I missed or any kind of build that they want to see, like, please let me know. I'm more than happy. You know, Soulbinds can change, but I think I heard in the interview that they're probably not making too many more changes to them. So this is probably what we're stuck with. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you later.